So, good afternoon, friends, and good evening, rather, friends. And thanks for that generous introduction, Dharan, from your side. And it is always a privilege to speak among fellow professionals and chartered accountant. And if it is CTC, it always adds to the flavor of presenting to fellow professionals. So, what we intend to cover today, and I'll jump to the topic, I'll try to make it more interactive though it is but we may not be able to talk to each other, but we'll take questions at the end and you can put the questions in the chat box. But I'll try to keep it more on SME, what are the various subsidies and we need to discuss. We'll also look more deeply on the revised definition of MSME, the Udyam registration which goes into that. What are the benefits for MSME as per the MSMED Act, the COVID and the Atmanirbhar package? And then I will like to also throw some light on state incentives which are available to MSMEs, because we have normally seen that the awareness of these kind of schemes is pretty less. So it would be good to cover those aspects also. The overall background and the whole calculations. But yes, we are third in the largest in the world by the purchasing power parity. We are fifth largest in the world by nominal GDP, which is there. We are project to overtake US by 2030. So that are typically what has been happening on the economy front, if I want to say. Yes, there are some challenges around COVID, but I guess if we have our bases covered, we should be able to achieve most of these objectives, probably with some delays here or there. So, what has improved significantly over the last 4 to 5 years is obviously the ease of doing business ranking. See, friends, you will appreciate if you talk from a normal investor perspective, this whole ease of doing business rankings are very, very important from a investor perspective. So, if you see when you look from a foreign investor perspective, they always concentrate on this ease of doing business rankings. So, what is important is World Bank releases this rankings every year. So in 2014 or 15, we were at 142nd rank, but now we are on the 63rd rank in the ease of doing business. So that's a very, very significant jump. But let me tell you, friends, two things over here that going ahead from here would be very, very difficult, because as you move ahead to touch the important part, what is there is in this ease of doing business rankings, only and only Bombay and Delhi base is covered. So not all the cities are covered in this base when they look at the ease of doing business. So whether that ease of doing business ranking for a large
Harsh bhai.
country, so just on the ease of doing business rankings, I was saying that because they take only the base of Bombay and Delhi, that would not be a correct indicator. So, but from this year, they have taken obviously Bangalore also as one of the cities to include in this. So, ease of doing business rankings, we are improving. And let me add over here, I am not pro Modi or against Modi. It is just what the figures what we are having in front. And we have seen a very, very significant rise in this ease of doing business rankings. So now going forward, with all this ease of doing business and all the measures what we have done, what has really happened is that achieved the goal what was there? So I will say no, because if you see out the quarterly GDP growth, we have actually gone down in the last 2 to 3 years. And even before the COVID really hit, we were on a slide on the economic factors, I should say. Now, there will be a school of thought that was due to demonetization or to GST. So even if you let aside those factors go, still, I would say there was a significant drop in the economic indicators also. What is required over here is massive tax and regulation. What is also very, very important is to concentrate on this whole Make in India issue, the Make in India program which was launched. So obviously now it goes more significant with this whole Atmanirbhar package and the way China and all that stuff has come in and how we become self-reliant. But Make in India, let me tell you, friends, even before the COVID, Make in India is not a choice, it's a compulsion. So because at this point of time, 65% of my population is below 35 years of age. So that's a huge demographic dividend what I am having in India. But at the same time, if you don't provide employment to these people, this huge demographic dividend what you are having can be a huge demographic disaster also. And let us accept here, friends, larger jobs will come from manufacturing. And obviously, I'm not disregarding the service centers, the huge back office operations what we are having in India. But if you see the larger job quantum, it will always come from manufacturing. So adopting Make in India was not a choice, it was a compulsion. And let me add over here, friends, Make in India, the objectives are as per the national manufacturing policy, and that national manufacturing policy was actually brought up by Manmohan Singh government in 2013. So Make in India as a thought process was there at that point of time also. So this was what I was trying to just bring you a sort of a background. And what happened in this COVID scenario now is, and let me add over here, the larger employment, as I told, comes from manufacturing, and that too 60% of the manufacturing employment comes from the MSME sector. So MSME is the backbone of providing all this employment in at least in the manufacturing space, I should say. So what has happened, especially in this COVID scenario, is this whole thing of shifting of base from China is what the world is looking at, the manufacturing base. And leave aside the political sentiments which are going at this point of time, let me probably ask everyone: is it really possible? Do we have the infrastructure at this point of time? So humbly, I feel no. At this point of time, we are not ready to really take over this whole onslaught which will come from China. Yes, the building blocks are happening, but it should happen, according to me, on a faster pace. And if you see the competition what India is facing at this point of time is mostly from Vietnam, Malaysia, and the ASEAN countries. So Vietnam has also taken a huge lead in getting those investments from China, and some of the companies have to actually started in Vietnam. So we'll have to be a bit fast in this and actually catch up in this scenario is what we see. With that, on the last part of this overall theme setting, so what happened was we also entered into an era of competitive federalism. So what has happened now, if you see previously, states didn't used to bother much on investment coming in the state and how to really attract that. Now every states also have their own industrial policies, which is for a period of 5 years, and they lay down the policy framework for each of the state. And 2014, what happened? A very important thing happened. The same way as we discussed the ease of doing business rankings across the world, there was also ease of doing business rankings introduced in India itself within the states. So all the states had to compete, and then we had to look at this ease of doing business rankings. So every state was given a questionnaire, and they had to then decide what are the ease of doing business rankings. So amongst India, Andhra Pradesh is at number one, Telangana is at number two. The current year rankings have not come, which is due to this COVID scenario and all that stuff. Because we see some shuffling in this rankings happening with the change in government, Andhra Pradesh may not remain at number one. And surprisingly, if you see the whole industrial number one state, I would say Maharashtra is at number 13, which needs some improvement and some measures from the government of Maharashtra to actually take this forward. So now we go to the new fresh MSME criteria. And as we discuss the whole importance of MSME, which is there, and why it is important and how it forms the backbone, now we can move more forward to the MSME criteria and what are the registration requirements. So Government of India had enacted the Micro, Small and Medium Development Enterprise Act in 2006, and it is for manufacturing and service enterprises. So previously, the bifurcation of this whole limit was on the basis of what qualifies as a MSME was on the basis of the manufacturing and service enterprises. So there were different limits. Just to clarify over here, and which is important, is MSME registration is not applicable to trading enterprises. Either you are a manufacturing enterprise or you are a service enterprise. So what is a service enterprise has not been defined. It is normally services as we normally construe to be, but otherwise trading activities are not covered under MSME. So there is always a confusion around this, that whether trading activities can be a part of the MSME registration, so trading cannot be. So if you look at the old criteria, which was there on the top of the first table, if you see, this was the older definition, which was there for MSME, which had only one criteria to look at, which was about the investment in plant and machinery. And friends, when we talk about here, when we talk about all this investments, please look at that we are talking of only investment in plant and machinery and not about investment in the total project cost. So take an example, if your land, building, plant and machinery is totally crossing the MSME limit, but if your plant and machinery is below the MSME limit, then you will still be eligible for the MSME. So whenever you look at these formulas, please look at that it is only a MSME. So whenever you look at these formulas, plant and machinery investments. So these were the older ones. And now at the bottom of the screen, if you see, these are the newer limits which have been notified on 26th June 2020, and it is based on two criterias now. So there are two criterias what I will look right now. It will be investment and the annual turnover. And these limits are effective from 1st July 2020. So it was notified on 26th June and it came effect from 1st July 2020. This was a very, very long pending thing which was pending at successive central governments, and there was a lot of discussion of how to change the definition, what should be the new definition. But I guess we have buttoned the bullet now. And if you see the limits, they were quite outdated in that respect with the economic activity, what we have done in the last 15 years, 14 years, because it was a 2006 thing which was there. So now what are the new limits? First thing is there is now no distinction between a manufacturing and a service enterprise. So whether you are a manufacturing or whether you are a service enterprise, the limits are the same. So now there is no distinction between a manufacturing and a service enterprise. There are two criteria what they will look at. Micro would be investment below 1 crore and annual turnover below 5 crore. Small would be investment below 10 crores and turnover below 50. And medium would be investment below 50 crores and turnover below 250 crores. So either you are a micro, small or medium. These three criteria we will have to look into. So I will say, if you see on a larger basis, this may be beneficial for some, this may not be beneficial for some, because there were many enterprises which are having medium category where the investment is below 50 but the turnover is crossing 250. So that has happened, and that is posing some problems to some of those enterprises. Various representations happened on this with the day Nirmala Sitaraman presented this, and post this there is various representations happened on this. But unfortunately, this is what has come finally. There is also a discussion going on that if you look at the turnover criteria, so you are looking at the asset turnover ratio of 1:5. So if 10 crores is the investment, 50 crores is the turnover. So it is an asset turnover ratio of 1:5. Ideally, people say that the asset turnover ratio to be taken for a manufacturing industry should be 1:8 or larger towards 10 if I want to see. So if you want to keep that criteria, then the turnover limit in the last category, supposedly medium, should have been 300 crores or 400 crores as the case may be. But this takes an asset turnover ratio of 1:5, which we'll have to keep in mind. Important part over this is that exports will not form a part of the annual turnover. So if your balance sheet is having a export and a domestic turnover, while calculating this limit, you will have to look at only the domestic turnover and not the export turnover. Moving ahead, now two questions which will come is what is turnover and what is obviously plant and machinery. So as we discussed about turnover, exports will not form a part of the turnover, and the turnover will be taken as per your audited balance sheet. So now if you see in this whole thing, what has come is that MSME would be now an entity based and not a location based. So there was always a confusion whether MSME would be a location based or a entity based. So if they are looking at the turnover criteria, the interpretation comes as that this has to be a entity based. So if your entity is a MSME or a non-MSME, then even if it is having 10 plants in India, all of them would be non-MSMEs or MSMEs as the case may be. So it will be an entity kind of a structure which needs to be looked into. The new notification states that the investment in plant and machinery or equipment will be determined from the previously filed income tax return. So ITR under the income tax 1961, what has been filed, would be taken as a base. And if you have started an enterprise just now, so value of the investment shall be taken on the basis of self-declaration, and it has to be, if you see the Udyam registration, we understand it is to be taken by certified by a chartered accountant only, and until the end of the financial year till the ITR is filed. So till the time the ITR is not filed, that self-declaration will form a basis for this evaluation that whether you are a MSME or you are not a MSME. The value of plant and machinery or equipment of the enterprise shall be determined as per the income tax rules and shall include all intangible assets, obviously excluding land and building, furniture and fittings. Mostly, if you see the MSME definition of plant and machinery, it restricts themselves to plant and machinery which go largely in a manufacturing activity. That is how, even if you see the MSMED 2006, that is how they normally classify MSMED, if I want to put it that way. And purchase value of the plant and machinery will be taken net of refundable taxes. So it will not it will exclude the goods and service tax, the GST. So it will be the net of creditable taxes, which is going as per your income tax calculation also. So 100 rupees is the machinery, 18 is the GST. The cost over here will be 100 because it will be excluding the creditable taxes. Important part over here is the cost of certain items even within the plant and machinery would not be included while counting this threshold. So like cost of pollution control equipments, R&D assets, industry safety devices, material handling devices are not a part of this limit. So it involves a lot of calculation here. And if you see the whole MSME, and as you move forward, many of the benefits which are there for MSME, you'll come to know that it is important for us to get correctly classified as MSME. And here I will say professionals will play a huge role, that not only going through the balance sheet, the certifications, but also this part, that what part of the machinery can actually be excluded while counting this threshold. Though it appears as plant and machinery in the final, if I say balance sheet or audited statement, but it will be very, very important to see what can be excluded over here. So going back, just to recap, it is 1 crore investment below 1 crore and turnover below 5, you are a micro, small is 10 and 50, and medium is 50 and 250. That's how they have laid down this limits of MSME definitions, the newer definition which has come. Now, there is also a registration process. So this is typically called the Udyam registration portal. So this Udyam registration portal has come live from 1st day of July 2020. First 1 or 2 days, there were some challenges around this, but now it is fully functional and people have started filing for these applications. On the documentary part, in the case of proprietor, it is the Aadhaar card, and in the case of company or LLPs or those societies or trusts, it would be a PAN card, which will be mandatory for filing this, and there is no filing fees on this. Then a permanent ID would be registered, and on completion of the e-certificate or completion of the formalities, a e-certificate would be given. And as we discussed earlier, on the basis of the income tax returns and GST returns uploaded, the reclassification within the MSME may happen. So that's one of the criteria when we look at filing. You will have to upload the income tax returns or the GST returns. And as I told, if you are a first year, you can go on the basis of self certifications, what you can actually apply for a Udyam registrations. Now, all existing enterprises who were registered under, it was previously called the Udyog Aadhar Memorandum. So all companies registered or all enterprises registered as EM Part 2 or Udyog Aadhar shall register on the Udyam registration after this portal has become effective from 1st July. So now they can register under the Udyam portal also. And all enterprises registered up to 30th June shall be reclassified as per the newer definitions which are there. And the existing enterprises which were there registered up to 30th June, their application or their registration would be valid up to 31st day of March 2021. So I guess government has given a very reasonable window of almost till 31st March 21 for existing enterprises to get registered under the new Udyam registration, if I want to put it that way. Now let's take this benefits what are available to MSME. And as I told, I've broken that into 2 or 3 parts. Benefit as per the MSMED Act itself, then benefits as per state incentives, and COVID, the new package which has come. Now, there are some of the benefits which have given to MSME enterprises from the central government as per the older schemes also, and some have come as per the COVID mechanism also. So obviously this whole priority sector status which is there in borrowing. So if you obviously go for a bank audit, and you will see that there is a priority sector lending to this whole MSME enterprises, and they getting preferred rate of interest and definitive allocation. I guess the larger challenge what happens over here is the security which is demanded, and collateral or the primary security which poses that kind of challenges. And also the TREDS platform which we will discuss in detail, and that's a very interesting thing, and if you go through the details you will see it is very, very helpful for MSME to actually go through this TREDS platform and ease the liquidity pressure. See, I guess friends, the largest pressure what MSME has in India, if you see, is this whole liquidity thing which is there. And that is what is causing all these issues. And if you see the TREDS platform, it's a very, very good platform. And on the awareness scale, I would say many MSMEs are not aware of this, and they have not been able to make full use of this platform. Timely payments is a separate section. Again, as I told you, TREDS and timely payments is a separate section, which I will like to go in a bit of a detail, because those are very, very important. And let me tell you the MSMED benefits of the timely payments. Most of the MSMEs are not aware, and they are not able to make use of this section. Then obviously this whole liquidity thing which are there is the collateral fee loan through and the guarantee which comes in. Also very, very important what is there is this whole procurement policy. So if you see in all these government tenders of central ministry, department or PSUs, 25% of the annual value of the goods or services which they buy and certain reserved items, they have to buy it compulsorily from MSME. And I will tell you, many of these MSMEs which are into manufacturing are really not aware of this kind of a procurement policy. And unfortunately, let me tell you, on a government side also, there have not been much clarifications, or rather much monitoring on this, if I may say. Clarifications is there, I will say not much monitoring is there on this front to look at the procurement policy, whether it is really being implemented. There is a very good subsidy for credit link CLCSS is what it is normally called. So any MSC, and this is not available to MSME, this is only to MSE. So if I want to put, it is available only to micro and small enterprises, where 15% of a capital subsidy is given on your plant and machinery. And when we discuss later on the state subsidies, you will come to know that this is a very, very important subsidy to look at. And benefits and tenders, obviously, some of the tenders, they waive off the fees and the EMD or the security deposits in case of MSMED. So if you look at this slide, I will say priority sector status, so I will say most of the MSME are aware of when they go to the banks. but trades, the timely payments and the procurement policy, I will say many of them are not aware. And on this part, I will like to delve more on the trades and the timely payments also. Even before this COVID scenario, there were interest subvention schemes which were there given to MSMEs. So if you see this slide, all interest subvention to all MSMEs for an incremental of fresh loan. So there was a 2% interest subvention which was there. And obviously MSME exporters which are availing interest subvention under any of the other central or state government schemes. So there are state government schemes also which give this interest subvention. So this interest subvention under this scheme of the central government is not available. And also the interest equalization scheme, which is 5% per annum for MSME and 3% for other manufacturers. So this is all a very, very good scheme. If you see in the letter and spirit, the larger part, what I will say would be the awareness of these parts. Now coming to Treads, and this is, if I say, is a very, very interesting platform. So Treads was actually launched by RBI to improve the cash flow of MSME. So if you see Treads, this is more or less like a receivable or a bill discounting system. This is a refined version of a bill discounting system. So there are three exchanges actually which have been notified for trade. So if you see on the right side, you will see these three exchanges. One is the receivable exchange of RXIL, which is actually a joint venture between SIDBI and NSE. There is a second, which is InvoiceMart between Axis Bank and M Junction Services. And last one is the Mind Solutions Private Limited, which have launched this platform. Now, how it will actually work is, so as a MSME, I sell this to the supplier. Rather, I sell this to the customer, the goods what are there. And then those invoices, I have to log into a system, which is a Treads platform actually. I can log in my invoices to that system. Now, these invoices which are there are then funded by these financiers through a bidding process. And me as a seller, I will be able to view what are the bids or given by the different suppliers. So it is kind of a bidding process where all these three come into kind of a compete kind of a arrangement, where if you see, then the supplier will be able to see which one to select out of these three. And then suppose if I select the first one, and then the contract happens between me as a supplier, as a MSME, and with the first financer, then the money would be credited to me within 2 or 3 days from the financer, subject to probably the documentary proofs which are there. And on the regular due date, so if it's a 50-day due date, or a 65-day due date, or a 45-day due date, the due amount is debited from the buyer and transferred to the financer. So if you see, this is a refined form of a bill discounting, which is there with much more facilities. And I am able to online see this. Online, I am able to view this, and I have the option to select on the best interest rates what these three financiers offer to me. So this, I guess, was launched 2 years back, but not having much of momentum. And government has been promoting this. And as consultants and professionals and chartered accountants, I guess it should be our endeavor also to popularize this more and more further. Just on the second part of payment, and here I will like to throw some light on the MSMED Act, which is there, which talks about early payment, benefits of registration under the MSMED Act. Now, as per the MSMED Act, Section 15, it binds the liability to make payment. So whatever are the MSMEC suppliers, if they have a registration under the MSMED Act, and whatever they supply, the due date has been defined as 45 days. Your credit period has been defined as 45 days. And buyers are actually liable to make payment of that payment to MSME within 45 days of the date of supply. So you will feel that obviously here the buyer would be in a much better position, because it's a very large enterprise like a Tata or a Mahindra, and they can actually squeeze the MSME and say कि मैं आपको 45 days में पेमेंट नहीं दूंगा, मैं आपको 60 days में पेमेंट दूंगा. एंड अनफॉर्चुनेटली द एमएसएमई के पास भी कोई ऑप्शन नहीं रहेगा, एंड दे विल से कि ओके ठीक है, वॉट एवर इट इज यू पे अस, बिकॉज that's a kind of a arm twisting or squeezing which happens. But fortunately in this section 15, 16, 17 what are there, 45 days is a sort of a deemed date what is accepted, and 15 days are given for acceptance. So if I say there is an appointed day and there is also a deemed acceptance day, so whatever may be your credit limit, whether it is 90 days or 120 days, for this act the credit limit is 45 or 60 days. You cannot go beyond that. If you have delayed that payment beyond that, you have to pay interest to this MSME. And that's very, very important. You have to pay interest to this MSME, is what has been stipulated in this act. And this is not only for government supplies, this is also for private supplies. You have to pay interest to that MSME. You will say, does it really get effective? Do companies really pay this? So let me tell you, I'm talking of very, very large multinationals and giants in India, which have paid interest to the tune of 3 or 4 crores in their annual balance sheets. And it's a separate disclosure in the annual report where they have to disclose what interest have they paid to MSMEs. So it is just a question of more and more MSMEs being aware of this and trying to say that, yes, I am a MSME, send that registration certificate to the buyer and ensure that the payment is being given in 45 days. And the payment has to be, if it is delayed, it to be paid with interest. And important part here is this interest what has been paid to MSME is disallowed as a deduction as per the Income Tax Act also. So even if you remember the tax audit report, as per clause 22, we as chartered accountants are also expected to report on the interest paid as per the provisions of the MSMED Act. And this is precisely the provision we are talking about, which talks about this interest to be paid. So make use of this provision which is there. At least brief all your MSMED suppliers that this kind of a provision is there, and you can actually get interest from the buyers on which it has been delayed. Now, what happened on this whole front was, obviously it was a part of the annual report to report it. It was also a part of the tax audit report, whereas chartered accountants, we were expected to report on that, and we do, obviously, we do that this is the interest being paid to MSMEs. Then still the effective, if I say, the full effect of this was not actually coming in. So then what the government did is, as per the Ministry Corporate Affairs, the MCA notification of 22nd January 2019, it has now been directed for all companies who get goods and services from MSME and whose payments to MSME suppliers exceed 45 days from the date of acceptance or the date of the deemed acceptance, as I told. And that is why this was important. The date of acceptance and the date of deemed acceptance are very, very important. Otherwise, as I told you, the MSME may, the buyers, the larger companies may just squeeze the MSME and give whatever date of credit they want rather. So now it is expected for these companies to file these returns. It's a half yearly return. So initial return was to be filed by 22nd January 19, which was extended further after deliberations and this part. But now it is compulsory for this to be filed every 6 months. So the companies themselves have to come out and say that in this MSME we have defaulted and we have not paid them within 45 days. Let me tell you, friends, of all the MSMEs in India, and let's forget the Udyam registration for the time being. Let's go to the older Udyog Aadhar. The percentage of MSMEs registered in India to the total MSMEs is hardly 25%. Only 25% of the MSMEs in this country are actually registered. And that is why these kind of benefits which are there under the MSMED Act, and you need to be registered under that. You cannot avail these kind of benefits unless you are not registered. So it is very, very important for us to tell our clients to get registered under MSME first. Obviously, under the older one, as per the Udyog Aadhar, and now Udyam, because now Udyog Aadhar is gone. So now you will have to look at the Udyam registration. Now, this is the last part of the benefits pre-COVID, rather. Some of the benefits which are already available. So you also have the MSME Samadhan and MSME Sambandh portal. So Samadhan portal is this exactly what we discussed on the delayed payments. It's a portal where MSME can actually go and put the request that there is a dispute around this, and it empowers the MSME to actually register and case the relating to the delayed payments. It is a very good initiative, and then government will intervene into this, and obviously then the payments would be released, and again, not of, I should say, not much of awareness of this part also. And there is also MSME the Sambandh portal, which looks at the public procurement policy also, and the entities which are registered under this, as I told you, 25% procurement is compulsorily to be taken from MSMEs in most of the government tenders. So the government agencies will go into this MSME Sambandh portal and see what are the companies registered over there, and there they'll have to put the purchase order, and obviously then it will be more circulated to the MSMEs. So it is very, very important that MSME get registered under the and rather use this MSME Samadhan and the MSME the Sambandh portal also. Now, just a bit of statistics on this whole listing criteria also. So obviously both BSEs and NSEs have taken have this listing criteria which is there for MSMEs, and the MSME SME stock exchanges were started. Not with a great of success till now, I should say. There are only 210 companies which are listed with NSE at this point of time. The funds which have been raised is more than 3,200 crores, and it has a market capitalization of more than 10,000 crores. So still a good start, I would say, but still I will say it's a long way to go. And these are the statistics for BSE. So 210 in NSE and 280 in BSE. So I will say around approx 500 companies have been registered, and the whole gamut of compliances which is there for larger companies has been relaxed quite a bit in this SME portal, and many minimum documentary requirements are there. So both the stock exchanges, if you see, have set up a separate cell to avail this SME stock exchange listing, and they are quite cooperative. So even in NSE, I have practically experienced that they are quite cooperative in helping SME to get registered on the portal and rather go for an IPO and get listed. So these were all the benefits which are there for the MSME, which are there for quite some time. So if you just want to summarize again, I will say the priority sector status of the banks, what we discussed, the TREDS platform, which we need to make more and more people aware of, the timely payments, which I guess is a clincher, which most of the companies are not aware of, and larger companies have paid interest to the tune of 3-4 crores in a year to MSMEs. Procurement policies, yes, as companies we need to be as MSMEs we need to be aware that 25% of the annual value should be reserved for micro and small enterprises. The credit guarantee fund, the CLCSS, which we discuss, and we will link up to the other subsidies also which comes in. The benefits in tenders, like as we discuss of the tender fee or the earnest money, and that is how they actually give you those benefits. The interest subvention scheme and the interest equalization scheme, what we discussed. And as we discussed detail on the TREDS also. Now coming to, frankly, COVID, and I'll probably take some time over here to set the context. So yes, obviously, this whole COVID-19 has actually shattered the whole ecosystem and finance for an MSME, and I will say MSME has been the worst affected, if I want to say. And if you see the various relief measures which have come in different countries, and if you compare that with India, if you see the packages which have come, um, I will say the context itself is a bit different in how other countries have given the MSME the benefits and how it has been looked in India. India has not actually given a sort of a direct cash benefit. These are actually building blocks which have been used for further benefits in years to come. So if I want to put a very simple example, if you see what are the benefits being given in a Europe as compared to what has been given in India. So take a Germany or a France. What kind of benefit measures have been given? So there it has been told that government has actually put in cash in the system. What has the government done? So if I am a MSME, government has told that we will pay 50% of your salary, we will pay 50% of your interest, and in return, you will not remove any employees for a 1 year period. So that was a sort of a lock-in to save the employment also, which is there in MSME. And MSME were not being burdened, and actual cash was given to them. And this was an actual flow of cash. This was not that you go and take a loan and this will enhance your liquidity. This was an actual cash flow. So if you see on that front, I will say India has not fared that well, where the actual cash flow has not been going. So if you see, most of these measures which are there in this are contingent liabilities. So if I want to take a very simple example, if you see this whole first incentive, what we are talking about is this collateral fee automatic emergency credit lines for MSME. See, if you see at the allocation, it is a good healthy 3 lakh crores, which is surely not a small amount. I'm not saying it's a small amount. But if you see the actual substance of it, so today a MSME will go to a bank for availment of loan, and the MSME will apply for this loan. Tomorrow, after 2 years, 3 years, if it defaults, then the government will actually pay this loan as a guarantor to the banker. So actually, if you see the allocation, it's a contingent liability. So I would go to take a loan, I would pay the EMIs. If I'm not able to pay, then the bank will come to me. And if I'm not able to pay as a MSME, then government will intervene as a guarantor and government will pay this loan. Now, if you see technically, this is not direct cash injection at this point of time. This will happen at a later stage, probably after 2 or 3 years when the MSME actually defaults. So this is sort of a contingent liability which is there in the balance sheet of the government at this point of time. So this is largely, I will say, it's a not an actual cash benefit which has come. So just to lay that background, because it was important when all these discussions came in, that 10% of the GDP has actually gone into this. Now, if you break down all of these, you will realize that actually 10% of it has not gone immediately. It is a long-term measure what we are looking at. So what has the Indian government done is, I guess this whole Atmanirbhar package and everything, I guess the intention here is to have a long-term growth story and to have the building blocks in place that later in MSMEs become self-reliant and try to build up this capacities and run the business correctly. But if you see factually on the ground, what has happened today is MSMEs with no liquidity at all and nothing coming up from the government as a direct cash benefit has actually hit them very hard. So whether this 10% of GDP is actually a correct statement to make is always, I'm not an economist to really calculate that, but it is always open for a debate that whether 10% of GDP has actually come. So if you see like a USA, which has 12% of GDP going into COVID, or Japan, I would say would be the highest, where 25% of the GDP has actually gone into this COVID relief measures. So I'm not an expert on what has actually gone in that 25% in Japan. But yes, for India, I can say that 10% is not actually a correct figure to look at. So with that background, we will probably go to the first part of this scheme, which is this 3 lakh crore which has been promised. Important part over here is of the entire outstanding as on 29 February 2020, whatever you were having. So your accounts of 29 February, whatever the statements were 2020, 20% of that can be given to you as a loan. So whether it is working capital or whatever, 20% of that would be given to you as a loan. There will be no fresh collateral security and no guarantee fee which is required under this. Here again, there is a catch here that eligibility is entities with 25 crores total outstanding credit and turnover up to 100 crores. So if your entities are having 20 limit of 25 crores and above, they will not fall under this scheme. Now, frankly, honestly, why this was being bought in, I am not very sure. If you are fitting under the MSME criteria, as per the MSME definition, frankly, this shouldn't have been bought in with this artificial restriction of again 25 crores of exposure and 100 crores of turnover. At least the 25 crores of exposure of the loan looks reasonable, but 100 crores of turnover really doesn't look reasonable. Yeah. Now, again, a very important point, if you read the first line, it is up to 20% of the entire outstanding credit. So if I, and this needs further clarification, and we also talked to one or two bankers on this. So would it be the term loan, would it be the sanctioned amount, or what I have actually lifted? So suppose my sanction amount is 10 crores and I've utilized only 6 crores. So whether it will be 20% of 6 crores or 20% of 10 crores. Now, if you see the plain reading here, it looks like it will be the entire outstanding credit and 20% of 6 crores only would be eligible. Now, it may be a possibility that I had some good collections in February and I was actually able to utilize it lesser and pay off something to the banks. But that, according to me, and the OD balance or the working capital balance is lesser. But according to me, that shouldn't be taken as a criteria. And emergency line of banks credit should be 20% of the overall loan which has been sanctioned. Also, the maximum interest has been defined as 9.25% and the NBFC is at 14%. So 9.25 is the maximum interest. I will say it's a decent rate to look at, because even if you see the MSMEs today, they were paying at 12, 12.5% as the case may be, but 9.25 is a decent thing to look at. The due date for availing such benefit is 31st October 2020. I'm not sure, with the COVID scenario still not easing and we are having absolutely high figures on a daily basis and we are breaking yesterday's records on a daily basis, whether this due date would be extended. Important part what I feel into this has been missed out. So what happens to a MSME which had no loan as on 29 February 2020 and they were a self-sufficient and they were able to manage? So what happens? They are not eligible for this scheme, and which I guess is not very correct, because see what has happened finally. Many of the MSMEs which were in a very, very good position also on 29 February 2020 have faced severe crash crunch in March, April, May, or even June or the July which is going on. They are under severe cash crunch at this point of time. So some window should have been given to them also. So I was a self-sufficient MSME till a Jan of Feb, but with this COVID, I have gone and I'm not able to pay my salaries or my EMI or my interests which are there. I should have been given something. So this is seriously, if I see this is surely missing. It should have been even to MSMEs which have no exposure as on 29 February 2020. That's the first one. And the allocation, as we discussed, is 3 lakh crores. But as I see, it's always a contingent liability to look at. Second is the subordinate debt. The functioning MSMEs which had NPA or stressed asset, so they will also be eligible for this scheme. Rather, they will only be eligible for this scheme. And debt would be provided to promoters of stressed MSME having 15% more stake in the existing unit and subject to a maximum of 75 lakhs, and there will be a guarantee fee of 1.5% also. So if you see this part, on the second part, I would say very less MSMEs would actually qualify for this, because it is only to NPAs or the stressed assets which were there. But on the first part, we clearly feel that the essence is missing still. Coming to the next COVID measures, obviously this whole equity infusion for MSMEs through fund of funds has come. So there will be a mother fund and there will be a daughter fund. So equity infusion will happen through this funds of funds to MSMEs. And this is again to promote very competitive MSMEs to come into the foray and not face any cash crunch. But again, if you see, friends, this is more of a building block kind of a subsidy. This is not an immediate cash relief. And if you see the criterias over here, this kind of a fund of fund is given to only and only companies or MSME who have a AAA rating. Now, if you know, if you have seen the AAA rating, this is very, very high rating. And this is obviously to very, very strong MSMEs which have a very, very high rating. On these companies, so this kind of a equity infusion of 50,000 crores will happen on a very MSMEs which have a very high growth potential. So good for a building block and MSMEs which are facing that kind of a problem in funds, and it eases out their pressure. But again, as I told, the immediate relief to MSMEs is not visible even in this part. Next is the no global tenders in government procurement. So they have previously this limit was 100 crores. Now they have extended this limit to 200 crores. So what would happen over here is that in most of the products, what happens is if the tender value was above 100 crores, you compulsorily needed to have a global procurement, a global tender also, which now up to 200 crores has been decided that there will be no global firm which will bid for this. And under this whole Atmanirbhar package, it would be preferred that Indian companies itself give a tender, or rather a purchasing tender for these kind of purchases. Contribution to EPF. Yes, government to contribute 12% of the salary on behalf of each employer and employee for 3 months, which was June, July, and August. Now, whether it gets extended further, I'm not sure, because we are already in the mid of July and we don't see the COVID scenario easing any further. Again, in this, I feel the eligibility of establishment employing less than 100 employees, I guess that is still okay, that you are concentrating on smaller SMEs, and 90% of the said employees earn less than 15,000. This I feel has been a bit harsh again, because 90% of the employees earning below 15,000. So yes, I understand you wanted to fund very, very small MSMEs in this part, but I see that 15,000 and 90% of that, so there should be some relaxation at this limits also, which has not happened, unfortunately. And reduction in EPF contribution, this is more, again, I will say a liquidity measure, where statutory PF contribution to be reduced from 12 to 10%. So employees, whatever contributions they were making has been reduced from 12 to 10. So I would say this is more of a liquidity measure rather than actually a relief inclusion. So if you see this whole COVID stimulus, and if you compare it, as we told, with other countries, there is not a immediate cash relief. And that is why if you see, there is a line of criticism also which have been floating against this package which is there. I think so the immediate need at this point of time was to also look at the actual benefit which is coming in the pockets. So if you see the lower income groups, I would say we had a very, very good package where free food was given to them up to now, November extended. But if you look at this whole MSME and business criteria, I guess many of the sectors have also been missed, like tourism, or if you see entertainment industry. So those kind of sectors have also been missed. And also in MSME, I feel a direct somewhere cash flow was required. This is a very, very good COVID stimulus for a long-term measure. Like you are having all the building blocks in place and you want MSMEs to come up. But yes, if you talk of immediate cash relief, I guess it is surely missing. We discussed these aspects of what was there as per the MSMED Act, what is there as per the COVID scenario which has come. I guess this whole payments due date and the TREADS platform is something what we need to see. Now I'll take just 10-15 minutes on this incentives, which I guess as professionals we need to be aware of and which are very, very important. So incentives in India and MSMEs play a large role in this incentive, and I'll tell you the awareness of these schemes is absolutely less. So fiscal incentives in India, and whether it is from the state government or a central government, they are broken up into three parts. One is the capital linked subsidies, the expenditure linked subsidies, and the sales linked subsidies. So what are these? Capital linked subsidies is somewhere where a percentage of your project cost comes back as a subsidy. So you invest 10 crores and they will say 20% of this project, 20%. So 2 crores of that will come as a subsidy. So that is somewhere as a capital subsidy, which is there, which has an upper limit, like it will have a limit of 2 crores, 5 crores, as the case may be. There are expenditure linked subsidies, where for manufacturing, there is a reduction in your power cost, in your stamp duty, exemption in stamp duty or water charges. So those kind of subsidies are there in India, which are called the expenditure linked subsidies. And let me tell you, all 28 states in India have policies. So it is not that only Maharashtra has a policy or only Gujarat has a policy. And because we have most of the participants here from Maharashtra and Gujarat, I'll spend some 5 minutes on what is actually applicable also in Maharashtra and Gujarat. So second are the expenditure linked subsidies. And third are the sales linked subsidies. What are the sales linked subsidies? And these are the biggest churners of the subsidy, if I'm to tell you. So take an example, you have MSME has been set up at a project cost of 50 crores. I'll take a very simple example that a project cost of 50 crores has been set up. Now, subsidies in the states are based on zones. So if you talk of Maharashtra, so you have zones as per the geographical index. So you will have probably no subsidy in a Bombay or lesser in Pune, but there will be very good subsidies if you go to Aurangabad or Nagpur, as the case may be, in the underdeveloped zone. Even within Bombay, people feel there are no subsidies, and even within Pune, I should say, people will feel there are no subsidies. But if you talk of Bombay, subsidies are available for areas like Bhiwandi, for Wada, for this whole Thane belt which is there. And if you talk of Pune, benefits are available to a Indapur, to a Baramati, to Ranjangaon, to Supa. Those are the various areas. And we as professionals need to be really aware of this kind of a subsidy. So take an example, MSME has set up a 50 crore project, and the benefit percentage in the MSME in that zone is 60%. Take an example that it is 60%, right? So 30 crores is the benefit what I am looking at. So 30 crores is sort of the bearer check of the subsidy what I am looking at. How do you actually get this 30 crores? This 30 crores you get in the form of GST, what you pay to the state government will come back to you as a subsidy. So this is not that you pay taxes lesser. You pay the same taxes what you pay at this point of time. So whatever GSTs, whatever returns you are filing at this point of time, you will normally pay that as per, so this is what you pay to the commercial taxes or the finance department. This subsidy on a reimbursement method comes from the industries department, because industries department wants MSMEs to be set up or other industries to be set up, and those kind of incentives come from that. So take an example, 30 crores was your larger subsidy what you are looking at. So for a 10-year period, whatever SGST you have paid to the state government will come back to you as a subsidy, subject to a limit of 30 crores. So it's a very, very good subsidy. People have been missing this. People have set up in Wada, in Palghar, and they have missed these kind of subsidies. So it is somewhere 60%, it is 70%. You set up in Aurangabad, it is 80%. So if you see many of the registered offices in Bombay, which have plants in Nagpur or Aurangabad, many of these have missed these kind of subsidies. So it's a GST. And when I say of GST, when I say of GST on a sales incentive, it is only SGST where you get this subsidy. It is not on CGST and IGST because that goes to the treasury of the central government. It is only and only SGST where you get this subsidy. So now this becomes more and more as a planning, and we also to understand while making a site selection that you should set up your manufacturing destination in a state where you have the largest sales. How I will take an example. So you set up this plant in Thane, in Nevada, with a 50 crore project size, and 60% was the subsidy what you got. And you are selling everything in Maharashtra, or rather, I will say 50-60% of your sale in Maharashtra, and you're getting this subsidy. Now, suppose someone says, "Ke, boss, why did you set up in Vada? Come to Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh is offering you 100% subsidy." So then you set up in Madhya Pradesh. आपका वहां पे भी plant cost is 50 crores, 100% में it comes to 100 crores eligibility certificate, but आपका पूरा sale is in Maharashtra. Now, what is the SGST you have contributed to the state of Madhya Pradesh? It is zero. So that is why, though your bearer check, so I say in my language, is a bearer check of 50 crores, but your availment is zero, your encashment is zero. So we'll have to be very, very cautious of this when we plan on the state selection also. And if some of the companies have already missed it, there is some way out also what we need to see. These kind of subsidies are available to all Indian and foreign enterprises, and it is not that foreign enterprises get more and Indian get lesser. So that's not the criteria to look at. And this can range to 30 to 100% of the project cost. So obviously it's a very good investment to look at, good subsidy to look at. The location will matter, the sector will matter because there will be sector specific subsidies also. The sale pattern will matter and your expenditure will matter. So if you see on the left, those are the four criteria what we are looking at. Now quickly, as we are in Gujarat, as we are in Maharashtra, and some of the participants also from Gujarat, so we will look at these two states very, very quickly. So what are the MSME subsidies which are there for a unit in Maharashtra? And here I will like to put a slight bit of focus on what is net SGST and what is gross SGST. Obviously, if you see, it's a very simple calculation that your total sale within the state is 10,000. So your gross SGST is 600. And then your input tax credit is 227. And the net SGST, what you have paid to the government is 372. Now, friends, in the example, what I discuss of that 30 crores, that annual limit, and what SGST you pay to the state government will come back to you. Maharashtra is the only state in India which is giving you incentive on gross SGST, which is that 600 rupees. And they are not giving you incentives on net SGST. All other states in India are giving benefits on net SGST, whereas Maharashtra is the only state for MSMEs which is giving benefits on gross SGST. And if you do your back of the envelope calculations, you will realize that was it's a very, very big subsidy to look at. So मैंने 100 रुपए का सेल किया, उसका 6 rupees, if 12 rupees is my GST rate, so 6 is CGST and 6 is SGST, ये 6 रुपया मुझे वापस आने वाला है. So how do you do that? You pay the taxes normally at what you pay for that 12 months. And at the year end, with the GST audit report, you apply for this subsidy. You apply for this refund. And all this eligibility certificates, all the refund applications, what we need to file in Maharashtra or Gujarat or anywhere, all have to be certified by chartered accountants only. So government, both the governments, I would say of all the 25 state governments, have entrusted this for chartered accountants to review and say that what is the project cost. Even the project cost certification is done by the chartered accountant. So some states have their panel of chartered accountants, but in Maharashtra, it is mostly open to all. So any chartered accountant can certify that this is a project cost and gross SGST, and you can claim this refund. Now, what are the MSME incentives in Maharashtra which are available? So there are 5 subsidies which are available in Maharashtra. One is the industrial promotion subsidy, the gross SGST, what we just discussed. It is 100% gross SGST for MSME enterprises in Maharashtra. So you sell in Maharashtra, you have levied 6% SGST, it will come back to you as a subsidy. Now, there will always be a question asked, कि ये पैसा actually आता भी है क्या? So yes, friends, it comes, and getting refunds from a government, it's not that simple. And with this COVID scenario, things will get derailed a bit. But if you see Maharashtra and Gujarat, they have been largely been good on this, and they have given those kind of subsidies. So IPS is the first benefit to look at. So in our example, what we discussed, 50 crores and 60% of that, which comes to 30 crores, right? 30 crores you will be able to claim for these 5 heads which are there. So IPS was the first head. Second is the interest subsidy. And very, very important, friends, over here is interest subsidy is not 5% of interest paid. Subsidy is 5% of rate of interest. So if you have taken a 10 crore loan, you can claim 5% of that as a subsidy, subject to certain restrictions. I'll not go much into detail into that. There is a stamp duty exemption. There is a electricity duty exemption. So stamp duty, whenever you buy a land or something, the stamp duty is exempt. Again, an important point, stamp duty is only under exemption mode. It is not under refund mode. So if you have paid that stamp duty, it is gone. So be very, very mindful of that. Electricity duty exemption, that electricity is normally a duty which is there in your bill, which is almost 10% of your bill. So this would be exempted. And there is a power tariff subsidy also of 50 paise or 1 rupee. So if you total all these subsidies and if you look at the actual availment, I'm sure this is a very, very good subsidy to look at. And let me tell you, companies which are headquartered in Bombay, which have set up in Wada or these kind of Jawar and these kind of areas which are there in the Palghar Taluka, or even which have plants in Pune or Aurangabad or Nasik or Kolhapur, have actually missed these kind of subsidies. So this is the Maharashtra Incentive Scheme 2019, and MSME has been put in a very different trajectory in this incentives. So if you are a normal large industry and you are not an MSME, then your benefit percent is 40% net SGST. So there is a huge difference you will appreciate between 100% gross SGST and 40% net SGST. So it is very, very important that whenever a company comes to you and it talks about that my plant and machinery investment is so much and I'm not a MSME, probably it will be good to deep dive in that asset statement and look whether some of those assets can actually be removed from plant and machinery to arrive at that limit what is there. And it will, if you fit under the MSME bucket, then something of 100% of gross SGST is something what we need to look at. So if you see at the percentages what are available as a percentage of the project costs which are there, so C zone is normally Bhivandi. If you look at Maharashtra, C zone would be Bhivandi, 40%. This whole Wada and all those zones which I told would be D plus zones. So A is supposedly a developed zone, B is lesser developed, C is lesser developed than B. So D plus would be Wada and these kind of zones, Aurangabad and these kind of zone which will have a 60%. Sorry, Aurangabad will fall under Vidarbha Marathwada. That would be 80% of your project cost coming back in 10 years. So this is a very, very good subsidy to look at, friends. And I'll tell you, many of the companies are not aware about this. And let me tell you, friends, as a professional sitting in Bombay, we feel that all this kind of work would be happening in a Kolhapur or a Nasik or a Solapur, and how it will be possible. But let me tell you, if a certain limit of investment crosses, like if you're a large enterprise, all this file processing actually happens in Bombay and not in Solapur or Kolhapur. So even a chartered accountant from a Kolhapur or Solapur would have to travel to Bombay to get this subsidy. So it's in Mantralaya and the new administrative building at Marine Drive, what you see. So it is very, very important. And this also brings us professional opportunities, right? You can tie up with some of your brothers, professional brothers who stay in, who practice in Kolhapur and Solapur, and they can take care of the client and you can take care of the government over here. So sitting in Bombay, let's not be under the impression कि ये अपने लिए कुछ नहीं है. Don't be under that impression, please. This is a very good subsidy to look at. And you will also appreciate, friends, that in this cash crunch and in the scenario what we are today, and it has become more and more important in the COVID where cash is the king. Something of this, if you are able to get to the customer, to the client, you will like absolutely have a red carpet welcome. Obviously, all this audits and compliances are our bread and butter, but this is something what we need to concentrate and look at also. Now coming to Gujarat, and I will take just a minute on this. So Gujarat also has been divided into zones because many of the registered offices in Bombay actually have plants in Gujarat also, like Vapi, Surat, Bharuch, these kind of zones. So again, Gujarat has been divided into zones. A taluka category 1 would be most underdeveloped, 2 would be lesser developed, and 3 is, I will say, developed. So what is the percentage? So if you have a unit in Kutch, let me give an example. The benefit percentage is 100% and it is 90%, but here it is net SGST. So take an example again, 100 crores, 50 crores is my investment. I will get 50 crores back over a period of 10 years. So it will be equally divided. So my yearly subsidy would be 5 crores. And whatever SGST I pay to the state government, 90% of that will come back to me. 90% of that. So subject to a limit of 5 crores, obviously, which has been set for that year. If you have a unit in Bharuch or somewhere, it would be 80%. And if you have your unit in a Vapi or a Ahmedabad, it will be 70%. But again, a very, very good scheme. And I will say many of the industries who have registered offices in Bombay have missed this kind of a subsidies because Gujarat was never a believer of subsidy. But yes, it is there up to now 2016-21. And I'm sure the policy would be renewed again also. So please keep your ears, eyes open, friends, on these kind of state incentives also, which I thought were very, very important for discussion over here. Now, whenever we look at a capital agenda, we always see that if there is any capital expansion happening, we should look at these kind of initiatives also. So first is the state incentives, which we discussed. There is also FTA agreements. So if you see this preferential or free trade agreements which we have with countries, so India presently has FTA with signed with Japan, Korea, China, Singapore. So there will be a huge difference in the custom duty what you pay for machineries which have been imported from these countries vis-a-vis a US or a Europe. So if you see a machinery which has been imported from a Korea, the custom duty would be almost nil. So if you see this whole capital agenda, you will have to be very, very focused on this part, which the benefits are available. And you can actually suggest some of your clients that whether it will be possible to not import it from Europe or from other countries where we don't have an FTA, but see from some machinery suppliers in Korea and whether it is possible. So India is also in talks of signing a FTA with Europe, which is going in the papers, the India-EU summit, which is there. So obviously there will be some discussions around that also. On the export-linked incentives, the whole MEIS, SEIS, which are there. So these are also very, very good benefits which are available. On the last part, on the incentive discussion, this is also one of the important notification which has come under this Make in India regime. So along with this whole Make in India regime of reduced income tax what came in of 15%, this manufacturing and other operation in warehouse, which is typically called mover, also came in, which I guess many of the companies or many of the consultants also missed out, which is still available. This came in October 2019. So the notification was issued in October 2019, and at present companies have been Previously they were a bit skeptical on how it will actually work, but now I would say this is more or less settled now, and companies have getting benefits under that. So what is this? This is sort of a mini SEZ which is there in your factory. This is sort of a mini SEZ. So this can be a demarcated area in your factory which will be called as a bonded warehouse. So what will happen when you procure machinery, imported machinery, normally what you pay is you pay customs and you pay GST. And there are other schemes also like EPCG and others where you save that customs and you have an export commitment later. What happens if you don't have any exports? Still, you can import under this mover scheme. What will happen is today you import a machinery of 100, so 7.5% is customs. You will not pay this 7.5% of customs if you are registered as a mover. So you will not pay this 7.5%. When you pay this duty is deferred. You will pay this duty only when you dispose of or clear that machinery for disposal. And normally, if you see in case of a capital equipment, the useful life is 10 to 12 years. So you will not pay the duty today. It would be deferred for a period of 10 to 12 years. And this is very, very important, sir. Friends. You imagine the number of years you are saving where you are not paying this duty, the time value of the money, obviously the money of 100 rupees value today and what it will be having a value on a 12-year period. And third would be very, very important is the interest cost what you will save. So be very, very aware of this provision. Very, very good provision. Previously, we thought it is too good to be true, to be honest. That how can you leave the whole custom duty? And friends, this is available for even imported second-hand goods, second-hand machinery, and also there is no export commitment on this. So very, very good scheme which we should utilize. This scheme is also available for raw materials. So it is not that it is only for capital goods. This scheme is also available for raw materials. But raw materials, you will have to pay that duty when you clear for production. So which will be depending on your lead time, the production will be 1 month or 2 months away. So the interest cost saving what you have would be for a 1 or 2 month what is there. But for capital goods, I will say this is a win-win scheme. So as I told, people were skeptical earlier on how this scheme would actually work. But now I guess it is more or less settled and people have been applying under this and they have been getting benefits under these schemes. For coming back to the state policies, I guess, friends, as I told you, we need to be very aware of these policies which are coming, especially on the MSME sector. So you have new sectoral policies coming for manufacturing. All 28 states have policies. You'll not believe there are policies for tourism also. So if you set up a hotel, and hotel, so take an example. If you are setting up a 3-star, 4-star, or a 5-star hotel in Bombay, you'll be eligible for the tourism policy. There are ITS policy. Tourism policy is also available for some units like amusement park, like Imagica. There is an electric vehicle policy. There is a defense aerospace policy. And in this era of competitive federalism, all states are fighting for this kind of investments to come to their states. So you have new state policies of Maharashtra, Himachal Pradesh, Karnataka. Jammu and Kashmir is coming up with almost 15 policies. It got delayed for this COVID a bit, but if you talk of any investment of Jammu and Kashmir, they are coming up with 15 policies. So obviously everybody cannot be a master of all the policies. What my point I'm trying to drive over here is to have that kind of a awareness. And if you are able to show clients that kind of a policy scenario and the benefits, and let me add over here, all these benefits would be very, very beneficial for MSMEs because the focus is on MSMEs. What are the talking points for the clients? And there are new policies that are coming in manufacturing, food processing, tourism, as we discussed. What are the talking points? Whenever you are talking to clients, look at your balance sheets for the last 2-3 years. If there have been any investment in the last 2 years, so they set up a plant in Rajasthan. So whether there is a possibility of a condonation of delay, You set up a plant in Gujarat, whether there is a possibility of a condonation of delay to get these kind of subsidies. And see, friends, I always say that you set up a plant because there is demand, and it demands, you have a customer base, and that is why you set up a plant. You don't set up a plant to claim subsidies. But what I will say is, if you have already set up, or if you are planning to set up for commercial reasons, why not to claim the subsidies also? So as I always say, you buy a car because you need a car. You don't buy a car to claim depreciation. So depreciation तो मिल जाएगा, फिर वो कार उधर सफेद हाथी की तरह खड़ी रहेगी. So that's not the intention. You will not set up a plant to claim incentives, but if you have set up, then why to leave? So this is kind of a bonus which comes in your balance sheet, which we have to be mindful of. So whenever we are talking to the clients as professional, talk about the investment plans, what has happened in the last 2 years. Companies come to you for audit. Can you really see if they have set up something new? What are the state preferences? What is the expected employment? What is the sales and procurement pattern? As we told that you set up a plant in Madhya Pradesh and you realize कि आपको तो कुछ मिलना ही नहीं है क्योंकि आपका तो कोई सेल ही नहीं है मध्य प्रदेश में. So that is what we need to look at. What are the assets to be installed? Whether they are imported, whether they are indigenous. Imported है तो can we look into the mover scheme? क्योंकि mover scheme में ऐसी कोई limit नहीं है कि whether you can procure only above 50 crores or 40 crores. Any limit of machinery can be procured. So why not use the mover scheme if you are able to save that 8% custom duty? And see, even if the machinery is 5 crores, if you are talking of a 8% custom duty, it is 40 lakh rupees. So that's an immediate saving what you are showing to the client. So look at the various state and sector policies. And I understand this is not so easy to get. So this is a very scattered data, but good to keep your ears and eyes open on the various state policies which get announced. And important part over here is you can get benefits both from center and state. So whether you are claiming from center or whether you are claiming from state, you can claim benefits from both. It is not that if you have claimed benefits from center, you cannot claim from state. So these are some of the talking points with the clients which we need to be aware of. Friends, I will just put this slide and just a thought. So because we are not talking face to face, I thought, but still this is important against this whole Atmanirbhar package, what is there and what we need to keep in mind. As the start of the discussion, as I told you, 65% of our population is below 35 years of age. And that, I guess, is the biggest motivator to provide employment to these companies. Now, I'll just tell you what is the difference between Make in India and Made in India. Are both of them same? No, there is a difference. I'll take an example of this mobile and I'll tell you what is the difference. So take an example of an Apple mobile, right? So all the contract manufacturing of Apple is happening in India, but the technology of this mobile, of the Apple mobile, would be in US. It would be patented in US. And if you go through any mobile, friends, the technology would be 80% of the cost. And the hardware, the buttons and the screens and everything is only 20% of the cost. So if you see in that scenario, Make in India is a scenario where the technology is with US, but the actual assembly and the hardware is happening in India, which is only 20% of the cost. So though the employment is getting generated in India, the GDP America ka बढ़ रहा है. So we have to be very agile on that front. So let's not look only at Make in India. Make in India is important, but the technology also, the GDP उनका नहीं अपना बढ़ना चाहिए. Now take a reverse case of Made in India. Take a similar example of a Micromax mobile. So Micromax, actually the technology is of India, it's an Indian promoter, but the manufacturing happens in Bangladesh. So there the 80% GDP remains with India, but the employment is generated in Bangladesh, which is also not helpful for us because that is a huge amount of employment which we need to give to people. So I always say in seminars that it is not Make in India, it is not Made in India. It is both, a combination of both what we need to do. And that actually comes from innovation and this whole Atmanirbhar thing, which we need to be now ready with. So if you see the ease of doing business rankings, out of 189 countries, we are at the 62nd rank, 63rd rank, sorry. But if you look at the innovation index in the world, if you look at the innovation index, out of 141 countries, we are the 81st. So that's what is bringing us to this startup India or stand up India, which we need to be keen on. So let's not look only at make in India of generating employment. The GDP should also come over here. So let's concentrate on this making India and made in India both. And as professionals, I always feel that we are very, very well placed to take this further. Whether it is MSME benefits, whether it is large company benefits, what is MSME, what is the definition, getting those registrations done, trying to set up within the four corners that whether there is a possibility to bring in MSME into this. So I guess our role would be to ensure liars apply, understand, evaluate, advise. I guess it's a large role what we as professionals can play in this. And I guess we are very, very well equipped with all the technical skills what happen to us as chartered accountants or as professionals to really make use of all this and be a partner in this nation building also. So that's a very, very important thing. And with this, I will take a pause here and I will take for questions. And probably we can take a 2-minute break also till the time the questions come in. We can take a 2-minute break and then we can go to each and every questions. So
Sure.
some of the questions are already come, whether trading extra enterprises are excluded even under the new criteria. So yes, even under the new criteria, um trading have been excluded. So in case income has been offered on a presumptive basis, and I was very, very sure these kind of questions will come from uh, professional forums. So presumptive basis assets are not disclosed in the ITR. Frankly, to be honest of you, at this point of time, there is no answer at this point whether this would be included. So it will be a self certification and a chartered accountant certified statement is what we got a clarification on. So I will say that on the basis of self certification and a chartered accountant certified, which you good for pollution control board and other things also. So on that part, you will be able to prove whether you are a MSME or not. Timely payment as per act is available to only MSE and not MSME. Can you please clarify? No, it is available for both MSME and MSE. So it's available to both. The timely payment clause of section 15 of the MSME, what we were saying, is available for both. Um, Please throw some light on registration of CA and lawyers or law firms under MSME as Service Act providers. Very good question, sir. And there was a lot of discussion which was going around this, like whether there is a possibility that as CA firms or we as law firms, whether we can avail that. So a lot of confusion under the earlier MSME Act, which was there. There are some CA firms which are registered under this and they have been able to take the benefits. But I guess there was a confusion under various DICs also, and they were not having a common policy. So list of services has not been defined, but I will say it will be covering even CA forms if you need to take that kind of a registration. So some of the offices have denied, but we as a forum, I guess whether it is ICI or whether it is CTC, as we as a forum, we should apply, and I don't see any problem in that. MSME registration required entity wise or various location wise as during the registration. So yes, I guess in there was again a confusion in that, but my view in this is now because it is turnover and all that base, I will look this as a entity wise. Form of Udyam which is asking details for plant and machinery as depreciated cost of 31st March of the previous year. So whether it is WDV or additions made in earlier years, whether motor car, no, motor car will not be covered under plant and machinery. So it will be the net block as on 31st March 20 or whatever your last year is what it will be covered. And motor car is not a part of this plant and machinery definition.
Bhavesh bhai, Bhavesh bhai, You tried to, dismiss all the repetitive questions, but
Yeah,
while going through the questions, if you feel the questions are repetitive, you can skip those questions.
sure. Yeah. Whether buyer's consent is required to bill to be discounted with RXIL? No. Buyer's consent is not required. It is a forum between the supplier and the financing party. Whether MSME can waive off this interest or is it to be mandatorily paid? I will say, see, end of the day, it's a right of a MSME. So if you are not going to push that right, I don't see whether really companies will get into this and you are not asking and still they are paying. Section defines supplies which are micro and small. So as per some of the notifications which have come, we feel that MSME, all the three would be included into this. Many times the interest provision is made in the books for non-payment. However, interest is not paid actually and disclosed as a liability for 2-3 years. Again, I would say this would be a right, and as MSMEs, we will have to push for this, and not really the companies will look into this. If SSE is registered on the Udyog Aadhaar, yes, you will have to apply again. As I told, this registration would be valid up to 31st March 2021. Then I'll have to apply. I have a manufacturing unit apart from the products manufactured and similar products from other units not owned by me. Can my manufacturing unit be considered as if I am having a manufacturing unit? You will be able to claim your benefits. I'd still not get whether the purchases are from outside. We can take it offline also, no issues. And if some of the queries are unanswered, we are always open to this. So you can send those queries to CTC and I'll be happy to answer that. Will 25 crores outstanding credit include non-funded facility like guarantees? If we discuss with some of the some of the bankers, they are of the view that guarantees will also be included in this. Please clarify if trader who is having 20% of brokerage commissions income. No, trading would not be covered is what we discussed. Whether we should take WDV mentioned as per ITR or plant and machinery, invoice value of the plant and machinery present in the ITR. If purchase value, so this is for self certification where you look at the purchase value. Again, some confusion in this part, because are you looking at the purchase value of the thing or whether you are looking at the ITR value? So we are put for a express clarification on this, and we are expecting clarification of this in the next 10 to 15 days, and I'll keep the group posted on that. Can a Samadhan portal be used if there is an existing case lying in other courts? No. If it is already pending with some of the courts, Samadhan portal cannot be used because it starts with that. Cooperative banks are eligible. Yes, they are eligible to give a credit line. Outstanding loan is working capital. Both. Outstanding loan is working capital and term loan both. Udyam registration number is being generated. However, certificate is not available. You should talk to the help desk. So there is if you see on the portal, there is a help desk also. You can put the queries. So probably due to COVID, they may not be that efficient at this point of time, but we'll have to see as things get. Are MSME registered suppliers obligated to inform the buyers? Yes, you are obligated. It's your right. You will have to exercise that right. So as auditors, if you see, in most of the cases, we also ask our clients that get us a list of all your MSME registered suppliers which are there. But yes, the obligation, I will say, is again on our heads. What if the invoices are raised prior to MSME registration? No, I will say once you are a MSME, even invoices raised prior to MSME, you will be able to push for this because it's a point. And whether I was, so previously also I was a MSME, I took the registration, but I will say that even invoices are raised prior to your MSME should be covered. What are the forms returns to be filled? And it is for both corporate and non-corporate by creditors for purchases of goods or services for MSME. Frankly, I didn't get this question. I will take at a later date, probably if you can send it to CTC and I can. If a company has more than one branches and there is a turnover, I guess we have discussed this, that my view is this will go entity wise. Whether sales tax subsidy is available for service MSME? No, at this point of time, unless there is a specific services which are there, like tourism or ITITS. So there was this huge debate also going on at this point कि अब तो क्या हो रहा है, सर्विस टैक्स का भी जो previously सर्विस टैक्स जो था वो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को जाता था. Now there was also a discussion that service tax is actually now going as a SGST to the state government also. But if you talk of present, it does not include services unless which are specified like tourism and those ones. Post Udyam registration for those entities which have upgraded, yeah, lower category to higher category can be a upgradation on the basis of turnover and on the basis of reclassification if some of the earlier benefits which are there can be requested to be surrendered. So it has come in the FAQs also, but there can be a reclassification possible. Please clarify whether registration for all MSMEs, no, it is not compulsory. It is optional. It is your claim, actually. It's your right. But as I told you, on the awareness front, hardly 25% companies are registered with the Udyog Aadhaar there. State incentives on initial setup, or no, even yearly expansions are covered. So let me take an example, like in the case of Maharashtra, you need to expand at least 25% of your gross block. So if your gross block in a year was 10 crores, if you are expanding more than 25% of that, then even expansion, the expanded capital of 25% would be covered. If I have a plant in Gujarat as well as Maharashtra, but registered office in Maharashtra, can I claim? You will have to look at a total balance sheet. We discussed that if you are a MSME as an entity, both the states you will be able to claim the MSME. It is not fair. It is fair, I guess. The intention of the state subsidy is largely because you are generating employment and you are helping the economic activity. So the industry department focus to give you a subsidy is absolutely different, actually. 45 days credit and interest if paid belated applies to MSME customer, or no, if there are transactions between two MSMEs, always a debate. I don't think so it qualifies. So it should be a payment to, rather if the sell is to other than MSME only, it would be qualified. I'm a healthcare service provider registered with DIPP in MSME. Yes, you need to deregister. You need to go as per the Udyam. You have a window up to 31st March 2021. Is the implementation shortfall very strong when it, because no wherewithal? Yes, it is frustrating. Let me accept here that it is not so simple, like implementation of this whole MSME policies, because MSME are sometimes small and it becomes frustrating. It's not simple, and that is exactly the ease of doing business what we are talking about. See, this whole ease of doing business, what we talk on paper and taking only Delhi and Bombay as a base, I guess that's not a correct base. Whether builder can register as a MSME, I'll make note of this query, sir. Honestly, I don't have an answer at this point, but I will come back on this, whether builder can register under MSME. Whether all existing enterprises registered as MSME before 30th June will be allowed to avail benefits as available to MSMEs and continue to bid for projects and operate till MSME till 31st March 2021 in spite of him exceeding the prescribed new thresholds. No, the MSME Act threshold have been applicable from 1st July 2020 itself. Though the registration is valid up to 31st March 2021, but according to me, once on 1st July 2020, you are out of that MSME limits, you are out. So I don't think so you can avail those benefits under that. Under MSME, shall I calculate from 45 days? I didn't get this question. I guess the question is not fully complete. How will the value of investment decided in case of existing enterprises, WDV or historical cash? So that's a question what we have asked as a clarification. If you look at the ITR, and if they are referring to the income tax return, my take it is WDV, because I guess the next question is also attended already. If an enterprise has trading as well as services income, whether MSME registration can be obtained, and if whether 45 days payment condition will be apply only for services income. Yes, the 45 days payment condition will then apply for only the services income, and your invoice will also be of the services, whether in the TREDS platform or any of the platform. I am selling a digital signature certificate. It's a service. Can I register it under Udyam? I feel yes, there is no restriction as such, but services has always been, some of the services have always been debatable. Whether a company having zero machinery, no, and having complete outsourcing of the machinery of manufacturing, can it still apply for MSME? According to me, no, because MSME, the intention is to promote manufacturing. And if you are not doing that manufacturing and it's a sort of a outsourced manufacturing, that contract manufacturer would be an MSME and not you. There has to be some machinery or some manufacturing in your balance sheet to qualify as a MSME. Whether all existing, okay, we have answered this also. Is commission agent covered under MSME eligibility for registration? So if it is a services income and it falls under that Udyam criteria, it is available. Is PF contribution 24% or 12% will be paid by the government? Yeah, here so it has written that both employer and employee contribution, but on the ground I have not seen actually happening. I am not sure whether companies have really applied under this. So I on the policy documentation it is 24%. If an existing MSME gets upgraded from small to medium, there is an interpretation that you are grandfathered till 31st and not 21. No, I don't think so. You will be grandfathered till 31st March 22. The limits are applicable from 1st July, and that is the date we'll have to look at. Uh, should MSME write that my firm is registered? No, there is no requirement on an invoice to do that actually. You'll have to give your MSME registration certificate or the Udyam registration certificate to your supplier once, and it should be his responsibility to register you as a MSME. What if the buyer is not registered on trades? No, that's not an issue. It is between the seller and the financing platform which is there. So I don't think so that would be an issue if the buyer is not registered under trades. So I guess, friends, I've tried to do justice on the time which has been offered, and I tried to cover. And what my intention here was, friends, that to be aware as professionals on what are the various incentives which are available. That's why I trade a bit and also discuss the state incentive, which I requested Anish Bhai and Dharan also that it should be covered, because as professionals, this whole MSME incentive of gross SGST in Maharashtra is something we need to be aware of for manufacturing. So thank you, friends. Thanks for the patient hearing. Would have been loved to be in front of you and actually talk rather than because it is always good to have a physical interaction. But yes, I am sure we will have opportunities to look forward in future. And I also thank CTC, just a prestigious forum to allow me to speak on the August gathering.